My name's Anna Salaman. I'm Associate Director at ArtScience Museum in Singapore, and that means that I lead on the content and concept development for the interactive exhibits for all of our touring exhibitions, and also the programs for all ages, but particularly children visiting in schools and also with families. My advice to emerging innovators for this program would be twofold. The first sounds really obvious, but it's important, which is remember your audience, children. So I would actually advise that applicants actually go and observe children play for quite some time and to understand what motivates them. I would also at best expect them to perhaps talk to children about the kind of things they like doing as well. But the most important thing is to understand that they are designing for children. The second advice I would give is to test their ideas, even at this very early stage, against this idea of whether the content is going to be open-ended, invite creativity, experimentation. Is it going to promote divergent thinking? Are there going to be open-ended outcomes? And you can test that even at the very early ideas stage. You know whether or not there's the scope for variety and innovation within that idea for children to interface with. A clever and collaborative design thinker will probably be a divergent thinker themselves. So that means that they'll be open to multiple possibilities in the design, and that they will be open to that throughout the process, really right up until the very end, I think is important. Equally, I think it means that they will be able to embrace the idea of taking risks and also failure, and even seeing those things as positive and necessary parts of the process. And finally, I think that a collaborative design thinker certainly works collaboratively. They work well as a team, and they recognise what they haven't got, they recognise what others have, and that they see that the whole makes a good result. A standout submission for me would be one that had the content which truly promoted creativity. So there were multiple outcomes. There was not just a closed-end product for the child interfacing with that space. And the second thing I'd be looking at is whether the concept was genuinely designed for children. So the designer Charles Eames said over 60 or 70 years ago now, in the mid-20th century, that a designer or an architect was like a kind and good host who anticipated every need of his guest. And by guest he meant the user. And so I think it's pertinent here to think that the designer has to keep themselves out of this. It's not just a clever design idea, and 100% think about the needs of the user, and then you'll have a successful play space. Designing a space with technology in mind, it's an interesting area. The first thing I would consider is, do you need the technology? There's no doubt about the fact that technology is something that children feel very at home with. It's incentivizing, it can be really good fun, and it can certainly be very creative. So those are all excellent things to consider. But again, I would say it needs to offer open-ended experiences. So if it was a technological approach that there was the same result every time a child interfaced with it, I wouldn't see that as a successful use of technology. Technology should be seen as a means to an end and not as an end in itself. So my work at ArtScience Museum sees a lot of duos working together, most frequently an artist and a scientist or a technologist. And I can see that relationship is really dynamic, and the outcome is often fantastic because you have a really good idea that's come from the artist being realised in a really cool way by the technologist. And I also see the kind of energy and the dynamism that is evident through the process of that collaborative working together. So I think it's an excellent idea of partnering these two different, in this case, these two different disciplines to create a new outcome. I've got a number of places that are favourites of mine throughout the world that I see as really excellent design spaces for kids. One of them I actually had the good fortune on working within myself, which is the Discover Story Centre in Stratford, East London, UK. It has an outdoor space and an indoor space, and it's been specially designed for and by children aged 0 to 8. And throughout the design process, we consulted consistently with children of that age group and slightly higher as well. So for example, in the garden, you can slide down the dragon's tongue, or you can go inside and create stories inside a magic giant parcel, or listen to eerie sounds and create your own within a cave environment. And all of those ideas came from children. And it also has good examples of simple use of technology used in a very creative, open-ended way.